Oh yeah. Alright, I haven't made a Star Wars video in quite some time, and you know why I don't make Star Wars videos is just because I don't know where the interest lies. It has been so long since we've got some decent Star Wars content. I just gonna be honest with you, I did not like The Bad Batch. It wasn't my show. Right after watching that show, I almost feel like you could completely forget that show even existed. And you know, it's a pretty weak move to follow up with something so epic like The Mandalorian and Luke Skywalker, and then just to not continue any decent Star Wars content following up from there. It's so dry being a Star Wars fan. It's so boring right now, in my opinion, to say the very least. Disney just sucks when it comes to handling Star Wars, and Lucasfilm, I think there's a lot of infighting within that company. I think there's like a huge group of people who don't appreciate the sequels. And you know, there's another group of people in Lucasfilm who make it feel like, oh, being politically correct. That's what we've always liked about Star Wars. And look, I'm gonna also say it too. Star Wars fans are awful. They suck. We suck. We're not the best fan base. Other fan bases have it pretty hard too. There's some fan bases that are not as good, maybe just as worse. And if you can find Star Wars fans that you can actually have conversations with, agree with things, or respectfully disagree with things, that's perfect. But unfortunately, a lot of Star Wars fans, we're not like that. We're very particular. We know what we like. We know what we should expect. And the absolute abomination of the sequel trilogy is exactly what plummeted us into a completely different genre of fandom. Star Wars fans are so unique in how harsh we can be, on how unacceptable we can be, and how unaccepting of other people they can be within the other people in the fandom. So why I'm mentioning that is because I find this topic very, very interesting. There is a rumor of another sequel trilogy being made. And yes, that is right, 10, 11, and 12. Before you start to say, oh, this is BS, this is never gonna happen, they would never do that, didn't the series end at episode 9? First of all, I'm just gonna tell you right now, no way in hell would they ever end the episodic trilogies on episode 9. Star Wars is supposed to have like a rhythm to it. It's supposed to rhyme. And nothing rhymes on episode 9. When they released episode 9, there was this whole marketing strategy of, oh, the end of a saga. This is it. This is the end of the Skywalker series. You better watch this movie because it's over. They only marketed it that way because they knew how people felt about the films before this one. They knew how unhappy people were about this trilogy and how disrespected they felt when it came to characters like Leia and Han and Luke and even Chewbacca. We knew they didn't have a story in mind, and especially to episode 9, the leaks were coming out from this movie even before the film was even fully finished, like production-wise. People already knew how the film was going to end, and it was an awful ending. And how did the movie end? Well, it ended awfully. So you can't tell me they're going to end the Skywalker series on episode 9. That's not going to happen. Now, if this new sequel trilogy is happening, which I firmly believe it is in a way, I think this will be Lucasfilm's way to essentially say sorry for what came before, and we are also sorry for alienating all the original fans, all the people who grew up with 4 to 6 and 1 to 3 and in between, and sorry for just destroying the story of the Skywalker legacy in the first place. Now, so many people, ever since episode 9 came out, have been talking about, oh, retcon the sequel trilogy. Let's just make it Legends, like Disney made parts of Star Wars Legends when they bought it from George Lucas. They will never retcon 7, 8, 9. They would never strip films from the legacy. It will always be canon. It will never be decanonized. Movies will never be legend as far as I'm concerned. The only things that will ever be considered legend is when they make books and comic books, and then they decide down the line, oh, actually, we want to make a movie surrounding this book. How difficult it would be to decanonize 7, 8, and 9 is... it's much more difficult than people think, and I think ridiculous. As much as I hate 7, 8, 9, unfortunately, it's here, it's there to stay. You can't do anything about that. So what do? Well, you move on to this new sequel trilogy that apparently Lucasfilm is in the earliest stages of developing. And what could that possibly mean? Well, right now, you might have a baseline where you might want to begin. and where you might want to end. And even in saying that, that might be even far in the future. They might not even be at that point. But right now, probably what they would be thinking is, okay, first of all, who could we return? Who from the cast of 7, 8, 9 would even want to come back? And who could we get to tell this story? Who could pen it? Who could direct it? Who could produce it? So right now, I would assume they're building some sort of writer's room, getting a bunch of people inside to just toss ideas around, see what comes back, and see who would be the proper person or the proper people to write one story from beginning to end, because they never did that with 7, 8, and 9. Now, what would this trilogy potentially be about? Because the way episode 9 ends is like, who cares? You've already ruined it, so why would I want to see the future? And when you look at the actors' perspectives, like John Boyega didn't have a good time filming that trilogy, and he's pretty well spoken about it too. He's spoken his mind, and he's clear about how much he's disliked his time. Daisy Ridley, you can tell she doesn't have the fondest of memories with that trilogy. I mean, Oscar Isaac full out said the only way he'd ever return is if he needs a new house, which clearly means he does not want anything to do with Star Wars, at least right now. And then you killed all the OG characters. You killed Luke, Leia, and unfortunately Carrie Fisher is gone in real life, and then Han Solo. I mean, also remember, they got rid of people's favorite sequel trilogy character if you had to choose one, and that's Kylo Ren. I like Kylo Ren. He's the best part of the sequel trilogy, and even then he was written poorly in a lot of parts of that film, and was mistreated really badly as well, considering he's the Skywalker, and that whole trilogy was about someone who's not even a Skywalker. So, rerouting back to the question, who do we deal with? What happens in 10, 11, 12? Well, there's also another rumor going on right now. Ben Solo is set to return in specific projects. We all know Adam Driver came out of this trilogy looking pretty good with upcoming projects and just career-wise in general. Oscar Isaac as well, let's be fair about that one. Adam Driver's going to be a really busy guy, and there's no doubt about it that he was the best thing about 7 to 9. Now the question is, would he return? Would he be interested in returning to a 10, 11, 12? I think if the movies were focused on him and he was the main character, then absolutely. I think, if we have the right writers and the right directors, someone who loves Star Wars enough and has the passion for Star Wars to maybe take it in the right direction, he would probably return with a good enough script and someone who actually was worth taking their time to build a story from beginning to end. So then the question also is, how could that be possible? Because Kylo Ren dies at the end of 9. And at this point, everyone, who even knows? Who the hell knows what's going on over there? They are constantly bringing people back from the dead and shaking things up in ways that I would have never assumed would happen, or maybe should never happen. Like, look at Darth Sidious. The way they handled Emperor Palpatine could have been so much better, but they botched that up. They could literally do anything they wanted. Maybe, Kylo did some sort of essence transfer the way Palpatine did. Like, I don't know. I'm sure they could come up with a way. Now, the issue is that way of his survival needs to be integral to the story. It can't screw around with the story of what would be happening in the sequel trilogy 2.0. Look, there's a lot of hmms and ha's and what ifs and really and okay, is this actually possible? There's a lot of questions going on with this apparently rumored sequel trilogy. Look it up on Google. You can find a couple of articles covering this. There's something about Star Wars that we all love: episodic releases. I'm good with any Star Wars movie they come out with. If they wanted to make another trilogy or another saga that's separate from the Skywalker saga, you could count me in. I'm good with that. But there is something about like a Star Wars 2, 3, 4, those episodic releases. It brings in more attention and more people than any other Star Wars movie possibly could. That's where they know they're making all their bread. They know they're going to make the most from episodic releases, so you can't tell me they're never going to do another trilogy, because they absolutely are. In my opinion, there's a chance that the Skywalker saga might never end. They might just keep going with that saga. Who knows? Maybe up to 20 films. I don't know. But I don't think it'll be a saga that will ever have a true enough ending, because imagine 10, 11, 12 came out and they were successful and everyone loved Adam Driver soloing this adventure through 10, 11, 12, and everyone wanted to see more of his character and what else he would get into. You can't tell me they wouldn't do a 13, 14, 15. If it's making money and the fan reaction is good, well, that's all they need to know. Now, there's many people like myself who just hate the sequel trilogy. There's many people who somewhat enjoy it. It would be interesting to see what the numbers would look like if they had some sort of poll. Who would be excited for a sequel trilogy, yes or no? I do think more people would say yes to another trilogy than people would say no. I would be willing to say yes to another sequel trilogy, mainly because I think they know they've made a mistake. I think they have to fix those mistakes. So I would be on the side of saying, yeah, I'm in for another trilogy, just don't screw it up. And also, there are other rumors that George Lucas is now more involved with Star Wars than he was before. There are rumors that he's even going to be getting some producing credits for the Cassian Andor series coming out. And like, not credits as in like, oh, you know, this scene would be good. It would actually be more so like he was involved in some or most of this project. And if that is the case, which I have reason to believe that is true, who knows what else he would want to be heavily involved with. There could be a chance that he could help pen the sequel trilogy. I mean, let's be honest here. From people who are close to him, they say he does not like the sequel trilogy, and obviously not. Why would he? So if there is a chance that he could potentially make another 3 movies ending in his vision, take that opportunity. And if George Lucas is involved in those films, then I'm absolutely in for it. Anyways, you know, a rumor is a rumor. Take it with a grain of salt. I do have reason to believe that this is something they are potentially working on and will be working on for the future. It's not like this sequel trilogy would be coming out in 2-3 years. It'll probably be some time, but I do think it is happening very slowly and they're building up to that. But I would love to know your thoughts on this, even just a simple yes or no in the comments below. That would give me enough answer to know how you would feel about a potential sequel trilogy. But anyways, everyone, that is it for this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really does help me out a ton. And until next time, I will talk to you all very soon. Oh yeah, and
may the Force be with us all.